Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Annie and this is 10 to Life, where it is really your true crime destination. We talk about all sorts of cases, old cases, current cases, crazy cases, which it feels like all of them are crazy cases, and I try to do my best to come on in real time as we get case updates to let you know what's going on. Unfortunately, though, lately, YouTube has been a little bit of a thorn in my side, so I haven't been able to do that as frequently, but I think we're ironing it all out. So if you're stopping by for the first time, welcome. I hope you enjoy the video today, and if you feel like this is a channel for you, hit that subscribe button below. Also, thank you to all of my returning subscribers for coming back today. So happy to have you here and love seeing all the familiar names pop up in the chat and in the comments. So today's case that we're talking about is one that came across my desk pretty unexpectedly. And after I got to researching on it and really kind of like diving in, it left me angry. It left me kind of surprised and also in disbelief. And you guys know how much I hate to use this phrase, but it really is one of those whodunit cases. And I just hate that phrase, but that's what this feels like. But what I didn't see coming during all of my research was the twist that came at the very end that hit me like a ton of bricks. So as you're watching this, no matter how well you think you may know the case, no matter where you think this case is going and who you think is involved in this, just wait. Stay tuned till the end because it will be sure to surprise you. And as I mentioned, because YouTube has been a little bit of a thorn in my side lately, we may have to start using some code words. And we already do abbreviate certain things because we know that YouTube doesn't like those words. And I've gotten suggestions to, hold signs up and do things like that because it's just beyond ridiculous. But anyways, we're going to try one of those code words today. So for unaliving, which I feel like is already code word enough, we are going to be using the term hopelessly sad. So when you hear me say hopelessly sad and give you kind of that look or that little wink, you're going to know what we're talking about, which is unaliving. So enough of that, guys. Let's get into this case.
10 to Life with Elise starts right now.
On January 26, 2011, 27-year-old Ellen Greenberg started her morning like any other morning. She was a first-grade local school teacher in Philadelphia, so she got ready for work in her apartment and then headed off to school. Ellen was engaged to fiance Sam Goldberg, and they were planning to wed just 8 months later in August. Ellen called her mom on her way to school at approximately 7 a.m., which was standard. Her mom was heading into work as well, so they would often have these morning chats while they were both in the car and heading into work for the day. That afternoon, a blizzard hit Philadelphia, and this prompted Ellen to leave work early because we know those infamous snow days that take place on the East Coast. While Ellen was on her way back to her two-bedroom apartment, she stopped for gas at approximately 1:30 p.m. After filling up her tank, she headed home back to the apartment that she shares with her fiance, Sam Goldberg. Ellen entered her apartment and her fiance Sam was home as well, so they get to chatting. She starts cutting up a fruit salad to eat for a little snack or late lunch, and really just starts to unwind from the day. At approximately 4:45 p.m., Sam decides that he's going to go downstairs to the building's gym and get a workout in. Sam returned to their apartment approximately 45 minutes later at 5:30 p.m., but when he returned, the door was locked. He started knocking, he tried to get in, but it had the swing bar closed and it was locked from the inside. He shouted for Ellen to come and unlock the door and even texted her 9 times. And Ellen wasn't responding to any of his calls or any of his text messages, which made him increasingly irritated. And so if you're familiar with a swing bar, you can usually get the door open just a little bit, but then it's, the swing bar, metal is across it. So he opens the door and he starts shouting at Ellen saying, "Hello, open the door, you better have an excuse," just starting to get increasingly upset because he can't get into their apartment. Finally, after there was still no answer, Sam goes downstairs to get the building security to help him open the door. When Sam and the security guard got back to the apartment, Sam actually ended up being able to force his way into the apartment and break that swing lock. And what he found inside that apartment was his absolute worst nightmare. He entered the inside foyer and he discovered Ellen, at just 27 years old, laying in a pool of blood on the kitchen floor. And as if that is not horrifying enough, she had a knife in the middle of her chest that had been plunged in. It was truly a nightmarish scene that had come straight from a horror movie. At approximately 6:30 p.m., Sam called 911.
Help, I need Out. I just walked into my apartment. My fiance's on the floor with blood everywhere.
What is the address?
4601 Flat Rock Road. Please come help
4601
now. Flat Rock Road.
Is this a house or apartment?
Oh no! Oh no! It's an apartment.
What apartment number?
Please hurry, please.
Where is she bleeding from?
I don't know. I can't tell.
No, so you have to calm yourself down in order to get you some help.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm looking at her right now. I can't see anything. There's nothing broken. She's bleeding. Ellie!
You don't know where she's bleeding from? Can't tell where the blood's coming from?
I think her head. I think she hit her head, But it's everywhere.
Okay,
it's everywhere.
She might have fallen. Do you know what happened?
She may have slipped. There's blood on the table. Her face is a little purple.
Okay, hold on for rescue for her. Stay on the phone.
Fire Department 842. What's the address? No,
4601 Flat Rock Road. Please hurry.
4601 Flat Rock?
Yes.
What's wrong?
I went downstairs to go work out. I came back up. The door was latched. My fiance's inside. She wasn't answering. So after about a half hour, I decided to break it down. I see her now just on the floor with blood. She's not responding.
Okay, is she breathing? Look at her chest. I need you to calm down, and I need you to look at her chest. It's really.
I really don't think she is.
Listen to me. Someone's on the way. Look at her chest. Is she flat on her back?
She's on her back. So I bring her.
Look at her chest and tell me if it's going up and down, up and down.
I don't see her moving.
Okay. Do you know how to do CPR?
I don't.
Okay. I can tell you what to do. Okay, until they get there. I want you to keep her flat on her.
God.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, okay.
Are you willing to do CPR with me over the phone until they get there?
I have to, right?
Okay, so get her flat on her back, bare her chest, okay? You want to rip her shirt off. Okay? Kneel down by her side.
Oh, my God. Ellie, please.
Listen, you can't freak out, sir, because you
Okay, I'm trying not. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Oh, my God, she stabbed herself.
Where?
She fell on a knife. Oh, no, her knife's sticking out.
Her what?
There's a knife sticking out of her heart.
Oh, she stabbed herself?
I guess so. I don't know where she fell on it. I don't know.
Okay, well, don't touch it.
Okay, so I just let her down. Here now? I mean, what do I do?
No, I mean, you can't. If the knife is in her chest, it's going to be kind of hard for you to do CPR at this time.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Police, which operator?
277.
Is someone coming here?
Yes, they are. You said 4601 Flat Rock, right?
Yes.
Okay, someone's on the way. And the knife is still inside?
Wait, so what?
The knife is still inside of her?
Yes, I didn't take it out.
Was it her chest or what area?
It's in her chest. It looks like it's right in her heart.
Okay, someone's on the way out there. Okay, just get.
Oh my God!
How old is she?
She's 27.
27, and there's no sign of life at all.
No, please don't be. What?
Pinch her under her arm and tell me if she responds to pain.
Ellie. She's not. Her hands are still warm. I don't know what that means, but there's blood everywhere.
I know, but you can't, and the knife is still inside of her. How far? Can you see how far it went in?
It looks pretty deep.
Okay.
It looks it's a long knife.
Don't touch anything.
Yeah, don't touch anything, okay?
I'm not touching anything. I can't believe this, though.
So wait, it was just you there with her?
We're the only ones here.
And she ran in the door, you said latched it shut?
No, I went downstairs to work out, and when I came back up, the door was latched.
Oh.
Like it was, it wasn't like it was, it was like locked from the inside, and I'm yelling. So I'm
was
yelling
your house
and
broken into?
No.
So there's no sign of a break-in?
No sign of a break-in at all. I mean, there will be when you get here because I had to break the latch, but to get in.
Okay, 4601 Flat Rock, and this is a house, right?
It's an apartment. Flat Rock apartment.
Okay, that'll help.
Oh my God. All right, thank you. Bye.
Police soon arrived and discovered that Ellen had been stabbed over 20 times. And that wound in her chest, where the knife was still plunged into, was just one of 20 stab wounds. The other 20 were discovered all over her head, her neck, her back, and her torso. There were also 11 bruises on Ellen's body that were in various stages of healing. And these bruises were on Ellen's right arm, her right leg, and her abdomen. Just 10 minutes later, at approximately 6:40 p.m., Ellen was pronounced dead. Now, as police started investigating the scene, trying to figure out what could have happened to Ellen in just those 45 minutes that her fiance was downstairs working out, they started to piece together what happened, but they noticed that there was no sign of an intruder. Their apartment was in a 6-story apartment complex, and their unit particularly could have only been accessed from either the front door or the exterior balcony. But remember, it was a snow day that day, and there was heavy, fresh snow on the ground, and they saw no footprints and no sign of disturbed snow, leading them to believe that this person came in from the exterior balcony. Officers also had noted that there was no evidence to suggest a robbery took place. There were still valuables in the apartment, personal effects, nothing that normally would be a sign that somebody had come in and committed a robbery. So with no suggestion that any other person had entered the home and nothing had looked disturbed, no sign of a robbery, the police then started looking at this as an unaliving. Particularly because in addition to there being no sign of an intruder coming in, there were also no defensive wounds on Ellen. So despite there being no note left from Ellen, they began treating it as that kind of scene. So my initial thought when I got to this point in my research was, oh, hello, it's obviously the fiance, right? He had access to the apartment. Ellen had 11 bruises on her body that were in various stages of healing. He maybe had a temper, maybe had the motive, because being hopelessly sad didn't quite align with the amount of wounds on Ellen's body. However, Ellen's parents told police that they absolutely did not think and have any reason to think that her fiancé Sam would have been involved. Ellen was also seeing a psychiatrist at the time for anxiety, and when police spoke with this psychiatrist, she also tells them, no, Ellen was very happy at home. She never confided in me that there was any sort of DV happening. I can't suspect that Sam would have had anything to do with this. But then, the very next day, the medical examiner had a very different report than how they were originally treating this crime. And on January 27th, the medical examiner classified this as a homicide. So then, the Philadelphia Police Department, who had originally ruled this as something else, began to backtrack. And they said, no, it's not classified as a homicide, but it is being treated as a possible homicide, and we have investigators investigating the manner of death because it does seem suspicious at this time. So very different than what they were saying just 24 hours earlier. Nevertheless, the investigation, of course, continued because they still had to rule this one way or another and get more information. So as they begin investigating, the police learn about Ellen's anxiety, and then that reportedly started making them lean back in the original direction of Ellen just being hopelessly sad. Ellen's psychiatrist had prescribed her Klonopin for anxiety and Ambien for sleeping. Now, both of these have ideations listed as possible side effects. Personally, I have taken Ambien in the past and was prescribed it many years ago, literally like 10 years ago, and it does mess with your mind. I will say that. Although again, nobody close to Ellen, not her family, not her friends, not her psychiatrist, ever heard Ellen express any sort of thoughts or inclination that this is where her mind was going.
She had told me that she felt anxious and overwhelmed about her teaching and planning a wedding.
So for 5 weeks, investigators went back and forth on what they think happened to Ellen. Upon their first review, there were no suspects. Ellen was alone in the apartment, her fiance was in the gym, it was locked with that interior swing bar, the snow on the exterior balcony hadn't been disturbed, neighbors also didn't report hearing any sort of disturbance or noise. Nothing was really adding up to indicate that this was a targeted attack or an intruder. There was also no security footage or stolen property that aligned with that theory as well. And what's more, the defensive wounds, or lack thereof, I should say. And another key piece of evidence that investigators found was that there was no DNA on that knife except for Ellen's. Also, no DNA on her clothing except for her own. So after weeks of going back and forth, on March 3rd, after being armed with all of this new information, the ME rules it as an unaliving. However, for the past nearly 10 years, Ellen's parents have spearheaded their own investigation because they are saying that this is absolutely not like Ellen. They even went as far as to hire their own attorney to file a lawsuit against the medical examiner's office to have her death certificate changed from that manner of death to homicide. They also found 2 neuropathologists to review the original autopsy report and see what they could determine from it. So these 2 doctors examined not only the report, but also brain tissue samples, and they both determined that being hopelessly sad wasn't even a possibility. On March 15, 2019, a newspaper in Philadelphia released a front-page investigative report calling out that the death of 27-year-old Ellen Greenberg was extremely suspicious. And in this article, they call out all of the suspicious circumstances involved. A well-known Pittsburgh forensic pathologist also reviewed this case, and he determined that it was strongly suggesting homicide. And he even said, "I don't know how this got written off as something else." Similarly, a forensic scientist also reviewed this case. And the scientist concluded that the number and the amount of wounds did not align with what they were saying, and also that the bloodstain patterns were consistent with homicide. One significant point of contention during this entire argument related to a stab wound that was in Ellen's brain. And there were a couple of them, as a matter of fact. And one of the doctors wrote that these wounds to her brain would have caused such severe cranial and nerve damage that in addition to the wounds in her spinal cord as well, it would have caused severe pain, cranial nerve dysfunction, and traumatic brain injuries. Now, what's so crazy about this is that in the original medical report, the neuropathologist who had reviewed everything had determined that there was no such wound. So how is it so starkly different? However, later, when interviewed by that Philadelphia newspaper, this same neuropathologist says that she didn't observe Ellen's actual body, so she didn't confirm, and she doesn't have any records, any sort of bills, invoice, or report of an examination ever happening. So how does that happen? And how does somebody, ignore one thing but then say they can't remember it, say they didn't even observe it? Like, how are there such discrepancies between the initial report, the original report, and what's being reviewed now? In October 2019, Ellen's parents filed a civil suit against the medical examiner's office and also against the pathologist who conducted the autopsy. And this suit seeks to change the manner of death on the death certificate from what it is to at least undetermined, saying that the pathologist was swayed by the police to rule it as this without actually evaluating the true evidence. And in fact, the doctor who performed the original autopsy admitted to changing the manner of death at the insistence of the police. A new technology called photogrammetry that wasn't available at the time of Ellen's death is available now, and it's also shedding new light on what happened. And this new technology creates a 3D recreation of Ellen's wounds. And when looking at this, it shows that not all 20 wounds could have been self-inflicted.
She had approximately 10 stab wounds to the back aspect of her neck. It's difficult to inflict those type of wounds on yourself.
So with all of this, Ellen's parents got a pretty large legal victory in January of 2020. Because a Philadelphia court said that this case was allowed to proceed and go past the initial motion to dismiss phase. In December of 2021, an additional review was done on Ellen's case due to the new evidence, to the attorney that Ellen's parents had hired and collected new evidence, the new reports, and it was going to be looked into again. However, recently in early 2022, Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro actually closed the death investigation and went with that original ruling, a conclusion that her family and friends still believe is very, very incorrect. And the circumstances around Ellen's death were about to become much more mysterious. The DA's decision came despite having a deposition from a medical expert that said in their report that out of many of those 20 stab wounds, there was no hemorrhage. Now, if there was no hemorrhaging in those wounds, that suggests that Ellen was already dead and blood flow had stopped, and that those wounds happened post-mortem. And if they were done post-mortem, that means done after death. That means that Ellen could not have done them. And guys, there were so many other details when you think about it that point to foul play and to homicide. Because think about it. If Ellen really was hopelessly sad, why did she fill up her gas tank on the way home? She wouldn't need a full tank of gas if she knew that that's what she was going to be doing. Why wouldn't she have left a note for her family, her friends, her fiance even? And why was that half-finished fruit salad still on the counter right next to her body? Which, by the way, if you look at the knife that was the weapon, I should just say weapon, it looks very similar to the knives that are near the fruit salad that Ellen was cutting and preparing that afternoon. So could the knife have been conveniently on the counter for whoever chose to use it? Also, if she was intent on doing this to herself, why would she choose that method? And why would she stab herself? And even more, why would she do it through her clothing, which is something that experts have noted is very rare to happen in situations like this. If somebody does use that method, they more than likely are nude. Very rarely do they actually do it through the clothing. But even with some of that, circumstantial gray area questioning, how did she manage to give herself wounds in the back, in the neck, in the brain, all over her body, over 20? How would she have the physical strength to carry out all 20 of those wounds, and then for the last one, so deep into her chest to leave the knife plunged in? And especially after multiple wounds to the spinal cord, the brain, the neck, certainly that would debilitate her. Now, if you're like me, the suspicion of the fiance being involved is still creeping around in the back of your head, right? We know they were engaged, but we also know that her parents and her psychiatrist said that they had no reason to suspect DV or that he would be involved in something like this. Yet according to Ellen's father, Ellen had confided in him a month prior that she wanted to move home. So could there have been trouble in paradise that perhaps Ellen wasn't confiding openly yet to people? And remember those texts that fiance Sam had sent Ellen when she wasn't opening the door, saying, "Open the door, you better have an excuse." Well, after the tech was pulled, we see exactly the text messages that he sent Ellen. And this new report showed a slew of frustrated and then very angry texts pointed to Ellen. And they said, and I'm going to read them for you in a row. "Hello, open the door. What are you doing? I'm getting pissed. Hello, you better have an excuse. What the F? Ah, you have no idea." DV author, advocate, and expert Barry Goldstein says that text message, "you better have an excuse," raises an especially concerning red flag. And he says, what I'm getting from that conversation is that if she doesn't listen to him or obey him, that he punishes her. He says that's the tone I'm getting, which in essence is coercive control. Ellen's father later told the hosts of Crime Junkie podcast, give a little quick shout out to a fellow true crimer out there, that they know for a fact that Ellen was being hurt before the attack, and that they were certain that she was being hurt, but that maybe she didn't know how to tell them that she was being hurt or didn't know how to ask the right questions to know if she was truly a victim of DV. And that takes us back to those 11 bruises that were found on Ellen's body, because remember, they were all in different stages of healing. And in many cases of DV, we see it escalate from verbal to physical to deadly. Another interesting note is that on January 23rd, just a couple of days before this happened to Ellen, her family members and close friends received a save the date in the mail for their wedding. So if she was thinking of being hopelessly sad, why would she have sent those cards out? And we know that her dad said that she had expressed interest in moving back home. We also know that she started seeing a psychiatrist very, very recently because she was suffering from crippling anxiety. And she also had those mysterious 11 bruises on her body. So could it be that Ellen had a discussion with Sam inside that apartment when they both got home that snow day before Sam went to the gym, and she perhaps told him that she wanted to move home, that she was maybe having cold feet, that she was stepping back from their relationship? Could this have then angered Sam, and the suspicion of previous DV escalated from physical to deadly? And could the reason that Ellen had absolutely zero defensive wounds be because this was a blitz attack on Ellen in the kitchen while she was eating that fruit salad that was still on the counter next to her?
She had no defensive wounds on her hands, but that didn't account for the fact that maybe she was hit from the back. Maybe she was knocked out. How could anybody stab themselves this many times?
And could that also be why many of the 20 stab wounds on Ellen's body appeared to have occurred post-mortem, more in line with overkill and somebody continuing after somebody is no longer with us, which is something that would have been physically impossible for Ellen to have done herself. Could Sam have done this and then left for the gym for 45 minutes to create some sort of alibi or timeline of sorts to cover his tracks? Sam has never spoken out publicly regarding Ellen's death, and he also has not answered any questions from any media outlet. Now, while I can understand that in some regard, also if you're a grieving fiance and if the suspicion has never been on you, formally or even really informally, why aren't you speaking publicly? Even acknowledging her death, to grieve, to express heartbreak. If you're not even being looked at as a suspect, why would you be so quiet in those moments? So according to reports, Ellen's parents are now prepared to sue the city and try to get this ruling overturned. And that district attorney who just recently, literally this year, ruled it as the original ruling, he will not speak out. He refuses to make any sort of comment. So what are your thoughts? Do you think that this case just reeks of foul play? Or do you think that the original ruling holds up? Do you think that the medical examiner got it right and this was really Ellen's doing? Let me know in the comments below. And meanwhile, Ellen's family continues to fight, and you can join that fight and join the Justice for Ellen Facebook group, or you can sign the Justice for Ellen petition to help them in this fight as they try to get this overturned. Let me know what you guys think about this case in the comments below. I'm interested to know your thoughts, because for me, something is really still pulling me towards the direction of the fiance. Not just because I'm jaded and because I've seen it too many times before, but because how does somebody do this to themselves, especially if some of those wounds happen post-mortem? Like, it just does not make sense. It just does not make sense. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in with me today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the coverage. And remember, if you like the channel and you think it's the channel for you, hit that subscribe button. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up on your way out and leave those comments below. And let's get this conversation started, guys. All right, until the next case, stay safe. Bye.